Afternoon guys, another video from me on the Tech Sumo from Hobbyking.com. There's the specifications there, what you need, and the plane. Now, they mount everything underneath the plane apart from the servos. As you can see in that picture, you've got the servos there. Not very informative picture, but yeah. So anyway, that's their diagrams underneath, battery underneath. A lot of your stuff's going to get a battering on landing. They give you some silly little foam bumper just to lift the nose of the plane off the deck. It's about as useful as a chocolate fire guard. Velcro strap and all that, blah de blah de blah. Again, not bad, does the job. I never bother using these wooden things, I just glue the servo straight in because they're a pain in the arse to get the servo wire in and out of, and you'll see why in a minute, because I do my build totally different. Also, their motor, yeah, you could go for that. I prefer going for something a little bit more beefy. They say to use 2208 kV, 2208 motor with 1370 kV, or a 2818 with 1350 kV, 50 to 20 amp ESC, 70 by 50 prop or a 60 by 50 prop, and 8 gram micro servos. And they say to use an 800 milliamp to a 1200 milliamp. Now, on my build, this is my tech, all done up ready for night flying. As you can see, what I've done is I cut the bits out where they would mount underneath. I slotted them down till they were flush with the bottom, glued them in place. I'm using a 30 amp ESC red brick, pretty good speed controller, and I'm using a Turnigy 2826 by 6 2200 kV motor with a 6x5 electric prop. Actually, tell a lie, that's a 7x5. You can have a 6x5 or a 7x5. I only put a 7x5 on there just to give me a bit of bit more torque, as it were. Now, other modifications that I've done is, as you can see, there's my servos. I've not yet cut these rods down. I will do eventually, but I like to keep them long just in case I want to make some modifications. I've set these slightly off angle to keep these tight. On previous builds I've done it as per manual and they've all been, they said, and they're wobbly. You ailerons wobble about, these are solid, they ain't moving nowhere without authority from the servo. Receiver, using an AR600 full range. I've got the short antenna poking upwards out of the wing, and then what I've done is I run the longer wire through here and into here, down at an angle to here, where I've got the other little bit sticking up as well. They say I have a 90-degree bend on it. I've got a few different angles, so the aerials always pick up from somewhere or another. Now, the second mod is the belly pan. This was actually cut out of some of that high impact foam that you usually get in packaging, using my hot knife or hot wire. I made my own little hot wire bed. That actually does a really good job. It helps out in throwing the plane. When you want to launch it, you can hold it by it, launch your plane, and when you land, it gives you a nice sort of, I don't know, bit of protection between the battery and everything else. and it also helps it just skid along the floor a little bit better and don't grind into the actual foam. The other mod is a couple of servo protectors on the wing tips, just glued in place with a bit of CA, and they do make a difference. When the plane's on the floor, your ailerons and your wing tips ain't touching the deck, so you're not going to be grinding out foam anytime soon when you land. With that 2200 kV motor and the setup I've got, you don't half get a punch. It is fast in comparison to the stock setup. Onto the lights. I need 3 hands for this, don't I? Anyone know where I can get an extra hand? Just plug these lights in. I've not yet finished the lights. I'm yet to do lights on here, which will be green, so that'll give you an idea. And I will be putting a strip of lights which will be either green or red on the outside, just for orientation for night flying. So on the top we've got red and blue, and if you can imagine the green on the vertical stabs, it will give you a nice bit of orientation. Well, what I tend to do as well is when I run the lights on the vertical stabs, I'll come up from here right the way across, and then I'll drop 2 LEDs down the back. Yeah, so you got 2 LEDs from the back end, same as how I've done it with the red ones underneath. I've folded them round underneath this bit, as you can see, so that you got more orientation from the back. So onto the underside, I've got LEDs inside the foam, so it lights the body up. I've got 6 bright white LEDs on the front, and obviously you can see how I've run the blues into the green, blended it out, run the reds to the back end, and that's the 2 that are folded upwards, so that when you're back, like facing the back of the plane, you've always got a little bit of light somewhere to give you the orientation at night. Believe it or not, I've built a few of these wings. I've built others as well, Swifts, Toros. If you get the light configuration wrong and not give yourself enough light from all angles, you can lose it. It's just all to do with orientation and visibility at night. Up here we've got another set of them doubles in white, which are stupidly bright at night, and when you're over the field it lights the field up, running into the green. And the doubles is what I've got inside here and on the front as well. Yeah, it's pretty bright. Even with the lights on, it's pretty bright. I mean, it's still daytime, so it's not going to make much odds, but plenty visible from the air, from the ground in the air, and you can see it a mile off. And then obviously the top, that's what you'll be seeing at night. Backwards from the back profile, as you can see, the 2 little red LEDs are pretty visible. But again, like I say, on the side, on the vertical stabs on the side, I'm going to have some greens. And then if you had a forward view, that is sort of what you'd have coming towards you. So there's not really any dark spots on the plane. But like what I was saying, if you're up in the air quite far away without any lights on the sides, it does kind of disappear a bit. So with the lights on the vertical stabs, it just gives you a bit more visibility from another angle. otherwise you end up going, well, what way am I going? Where is it? So yeah, another build from RCD, as I'm called, or Captain Dan the Flying Teapot. Oh look, we're having a bit of dimness. That battery's running low, so the blue lights have gone dim. That's a sure way as well, that's a tip for you. If your lights start dimming when you add power while you're flying the wings, your lights start dimming, land. That's telling you you've got a low battery. It's always a sure sign of a low battery is when the lights start pulsing. You'll notice it before they go totally dim, so it's quite a sort of good indication. Let's see if I can put a better battery on there, see if it makes them any brighter, which it should do in theory, because that other battery's been the tester battery, so it's been used a fair bit. While I've been doing the build, I use the battery to check, make sure I'm soldering on the right lines. So if I'm going from live to live, some of these LEDs as well can sort of trick you. And a good example is on this plane. With the red ones, there you go, that's much brighter. Even them ones, even the undersides, is a whole heap brighter. Definitely going to be able to see that at night. So anyway, as I was saying, let's turn them off so you can see properly. These LEDs, the blue ones, the live is on the side of the little diode. On the red ones, the live is on the side of the little connector, a little joining bit of solder. Don't know why they do that. It's just probably manufacture how they're done. So always make sure you check your wiring before you solder it. Some little orange wires there. Some of the wiring I actually planted right next to each other so that I could actually just bridge it with a bit of solder, which makes life easier. I've melted the foam in a few places, which is a pain, but sometimes can't be helped. Same here, they were right close together, so I bridged it with solder rather than pissing about with wires. That was bridged with a bit of wire that was coated in solder, and then obviously the longer one with a bit of protective wire over it so there's no touchy. And yeah, and that's it. If you want to go back on references, if you've got LED lighting like this which will give you the plus and minus and stuff like this which doesn't, when you have wired one piece up you can refer back to it, but like I said, always check the other bits, because sometimes you do get the odd bit of LED wiring that's the same stuff, just wired differently, and it can cause you problems, especially if you've not checked it and you've gone through the whole build soldering everything up thinking yeah gravy, it's all going to be done, turn it on, and you got about 4 or 5 strips that are not lit up because they're the wrong orientation, which is a pain in the arse, because then you got to go over it all again with the lights on, mark out what ones are doing it, what are the wrong way round, and reset it all. So anyway, yeah, hope you enjoyed my little build video on the Tech Sumo. Also, I don't use a 12 or an 800 milliamp 11. I use a 2200 milliamp 11 volt zippy compact. Obviously this part here I've got to cut out still to fit the bigger battery, and I'm going to cut it back so it sits back and give myself enough room to play to move the battery about for CG. I have toyed with the idea of cutting this out, same as these, just cutting it out so I've got a nice long area for the battery to sit, rather than it sit crossways like this. It could sit like this, which should in theory be probably better. I'm going to see where it balances up. If it balances with it like that nicely, then I'll go with that, because with this it gives me plenty of scope to move backwards and forwards. It gives me a good inch or two. If it don't balance up, then what I'll do is put a few weights on the front, old school. But that's it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share, or not. Until next time, laters potatoes.